Oh god, I haven't done this in far too long and I'm very nervous, so I'll try not to say too many stupid things. Welcome to Building a Brand at Winterclash 2024. We have got... No, not shaking too hard. We have got Mark Heuß, who previously worked at Powerslide and now runs Entente frames, which, in my opinion, are the best flat frame on the market and can convince me to skate flat. So if I can do it, you can, because I'm woeful. Next up, we've got Stefan Brandow, who's designed logos for God knows how many brands, including razors, but we won't talk about that. He also had his own brands, Lumen, Outward Supply Co. and Brigade. And now, new kids on the block, Standard. He has come up with the excellent branding for it that I'm a huge fan of. Next up, we've got Matthew Stewart, my one-time flatmate, back when he was a teeny tiny little person, and now he's a big successful man working for Clark's. He is your head of collaborations, or in charge of collaborations at Clark's. And he was the man that brought the Them Skates, Clark's collab skate and shoe line to life, along with John Julio. Next up, one of my favourite skaters of all time, ridiculously handsome. Can't say enough good things about this man, even though he always busts my balls about something or other. Billy O'Neill, the man behind Mesmer, along with working in partnership with Powerslide. And then last but not least, we've got Javi Garrido, who's been absolutely killing it at competitions. Sponsored by Rollerblade, puts out some epic street sections, and she's got her own brand called RollFem, which promotes healthy living and qualifications and basically ways to like treat yourself better through rollerblading and other activities. So, first off, because they're the newest brand, we're going to start with Standard. You guys obviously introduced the brand last year, the skate's out, people are now like getting to try it on in person for the first time in Europe. When you sat down with Lawrence and were like, right, this is what we want to do, like what were the goals you had in mind? Like there's obviously a very distinctive look that you guys have gone for. What inspired that?
So we had done Chroma together, and I think after doing Chroma and Law kind of trusting me with that, he was like, you know, if I want to start this skate brand, you did an okay job with Chroma, could you do this for me? And it's kind of evolved as we've done it. Law's big thing was he wanted it to be for everyone. So I'm super into very niche branding. Like in skateboarding, I always use this example. There's so many niche companies for every single type of skater. And I think we need that in rollerblading, but that was not what Law wanted to do. So it was finding that middle ground of me wanting to do something that was super stylistic and super niche, but him wanting it to be promotable to any type of skater. He didn't want to ostracize anybody. So it was me kind of figuring out how do I represent that visually to where it's something different and something cool that people are going to want to get behind, but not ostracize somebody because they dress a certain way, you know, are into a certain type of music, whatever. So I say this, kind of like my inspiration folders that I had for the start of the brand do not look at all what the brand is now. It's kind of evolved into what it is. I know there's been a lot of comparisons to like Alien Workshop and Mind Game and like 90s skateboarding, and that was never the goal. And it's kind of just made its own evolution into what it is. And we've kind of had this almost design style now that is ours. And that has made it easier for me to continue because now we have a set vision and a set look. And that's just kind of how we're going to continue with it.
Awesome. Also, that design of Standard is for everyone is my favorite design you guys have.
Thank you.
Next we've got Mark Heuß. Mark, with like Entente, you guys like have like very kind of like subtle humor and stuff like that, and everything's like very minimalistic. Like why did you decide to like start like break off and start your own frame brand, and like what was like the main goal you wanted to achieve with it?
Ooh, tough questions. With the humor, at first, then as a German, I need to thank you for speaking positive about our missing humor. And with the.
I never said it was funny. I just said
It's only a few find it funny, but yeah, the Germans. The Germans. But I didn't really like the decision to start Entente. Really wasn't affected by when I stopped working at Powerslide. That was something separate. I was always really happy at Powerslide. It was just after more than a decade, it was enough for me and for my personal development. And then out of a Corona boredom, out of a boredom in a lockdown, I messed around and I wanted to, kind of the thought grew of doing something on my own. And then one step led to another, to the next one, and yeah, it kind of happened. And with the branding, like when it was really interesting what you just said, with that you have your really specific view on it and how you wanted to feel, how you wanted it to feel and to be perceived. And I really didn't. I just I know that I can't do anything. I've got left hands and I just connect, kind of. And I've contacted a good friend who's a talented graphic designer who made this for me, which I was trying to give him the leading lines, what I imagined, but I can't do it. And I'm really happy with the result I got. And then from that, step by step, it kind of became a brand on accident. If that answers your question.
it definitely does. Next up, we've got Matthew Stewart. So obviously, your job is to find other brands that will work, that you can make work with Clarks, or like when you've obviously done so many collaborations in the past. You'll see them all the time if you follow Matthew on Instagram. With the Them Skates one, when you're looking for a brand to work with, or to you're basically you're kind of having to protect the Clarks brand and the name as well. And when you look for a brand, what do you look for? What are the prerequisites, the things they have to have in order for you to even consider teaming up with them?
It's not so much about necessarily what you have to have. For one, there has to be a natural connection, a synergy between the brand, what we do, the things we believe in. Even that's internally, the people that work for us internally, or brand history, DNA. Once we have that, it's really about activating new markets, trying to build new consumers, or trying to touch on new sources of revenue, again, which is essentially trying to build new consumers. That's the two factors that we look at.
So what was it about Them Skates that you decided, because some people could argue, oh, that was a passion project, or it was something to just tap into the fact that you're a rollerblader before you started working for Clarks. But what was it about that? I
stopped rollerblading way before. I only rollerbladed for maybe a couple of months before I did this project.
Well, that's because you got phenomenally hurt. That wasn't through choice.
Yeah. But
that wasn't through choice.
It wasn't my whole time living in London and working not just for Clarks but for various other brands. I've never skated, and it was just so happened that I started that before. There's an old image of John, in I think it's 1906 advert. He's got a pair of black wallies on. Dustin Latimer always wore desert boots in a couple of mind game ads. And naturally, I remember when I was growing up as well, skaters that I looked up to within, certainly the UK scene. And obviously there's a huge connection with Clarks in British culture within the UK. But a lot of the big guys, whether it's Ollie Short and Mike Welland, all of these guys wore Clarks. So I kind of felt, naturally for me, there was a synergy there for us to do something. I had a lot of mutual friends with John at that point. He'd just opened them. I loved what he was doing. He'd also just worked with Kyle at Braindead, super great brand, what he does. And I thought it could be a really interesting thing for Clarks to do. We've got skateboarding. We worked with some amazing skateboard aspirers, whether it's Supreme, Civilist, who's a store based in Berlin. We've got a project coming out with. But yeah, we've got nothing in this world, and it was a cool opportunity to try and put blading in that light, I guess. And again, it doesn't, for me in projects, there has to be a commercial sign off to a degree, but it doesn't necessarily mean driving units in volume in terms of product. We can gain so much more in terms of just working with partners that might necessarily not be able to reach the markets that we can. I think that's one thing about collaboration. I hate that term to start with, but one great thing that you can do is leverage off each other's commercial pools and customers. So yeah, it was one thing.
And did you have to like, when you like tried to sell that to your boss and was like, this is the brand I want to go with next, if we want to do something with them, was there like any, because obviously it's a rollerblading brand and most brands outside of the sport don't touch rollerblading. They're like, we're not using your skaters, we don't want you promoting our brands, like, because CJ Wellsmore's mentioned before, like he tried to get in touch with like Ray-Ban and stuff like that, and they're like, no, we don't want, we don't want rollerbladers, we don't want them. Was there any kickback, or was there like, did you have to like convince them and go like, this is a good idea, or?
No.
Now.
No, like in that degree, my bosses are pretty flexible, and I think you've got to be quite dynamic in the world that I work in. It's a very niche market in general. Like what I do within Clark's is a tiny fucking portion in a big, big world of the business. But it's important for us to try and navigate in that world, so we allowed a degree of freedom in that sense. My boss is a couple of years older than me. He's from Italy. He's got a great sense of connection with culture. He remembers skating from when he was younger and thought that's cool as fuck. So in general, it was okay. And also there was another big thing. At that point in time, the whole thing it started was I'd spoken to John because he'd opened his shop, and I thought it would be cool to get a couple of wallies in there and like just have some wallabies in that shop. That would look fucking sick. And then his response back by a friend was like, yeah, we'd love that. I wonder if we could ever do a project one day. And I was like, I fucking wondered if we could. That would be amazing. And that's kind of how it came.
Okay. Next up, we have Javi Garrido. For people that don't know or haven't like visited the website or like know about like the work that you do, how would you describe like RollFem and like its aim and like why you decided to start it and like what you thought was missing that you wanted to create with that?
Thank you, David. So I have a very similar story that you were just saying. I started skating in Chile, and when I started, there were no more girls. And I have the idea to create a magazine of extreme sport for women, because I wanted to demonstrate that our sport can be in the same page with other brands. And I started looking for brands like Vans and these kind of brands. So I remember when I had the meeting with the brand manager of Vans, and he told me like, okay, you are the director of the magazine and you are a rollerblader, but I don't want my brand to be next to your content of rollerblading, sorry. So I start feeling like this is not good. I don't feel comfortable with this. So this project that was a magazine changed to what is RollFem now. So we changed the focus. We stopped thinking that we have to demonstrate something for the other brands, and now we focus on what we think that is needed in our sport. And if you see our sport from outside, it's something that looks very difficult to do crazy things. All the brands always choose like the best skaters. And how can new people get into this in our sport? So that is the idea of RollFem, to teach. It's a platform with online courses, but not also to learn to skate, also to empower people with their mindset. Because I've been in many contests and I've seen a lot of people getting frustrated, also quitting the sport because they get frustrated and they think that they are not good enough, or they feel too much pressure from the brands. So that is the idea of RollFem, to empower people to work in their mindset and feel more confident and enjoy the process of learning.
I've often wondered, like, I've spoke to like a lot of women in rollerblading, and I've wondered if you feel like as a sport and as an industry we are doing enough to like create branding that is appealing to women or market to women, because as I feel like that is like an untapped thing in our industry. Like we don't market to women at all, and it's only like in the last couple of years we've even made products with women's name on it. And it feels like, as a woman, do you feel like you see enough companies or brands like trying to appeal to women or trying to get women into the sport, or like what do you think the industry could do like more of in that respect that would just bring more, like, you see it here, like, it's all guys. It's all guys and then like a scattering of women. It's not enough. It's not enough. It's not enough. We need more of you guys. That's what I mean. We need more of you guys. Like, what do you think?
Yeah, well, we can see. So I think we all agree that we need more places and support from brands for women, but also I see that more brands are starting to show the woman support and getting skates with the name of girls. But I will invite women because I know there are many girls that have they are good in designing, they have good ideas, and maybe we are a little scared to show our skills creating brands. And I know that creative brands look very intimidating, but I think that from my experience, there are 3 points that are very important to create a brand. And the first one is to understand what do you really love. For example, if you're a designer. Another one is to see what is needed in the market. And the other one is that you do what you love. And so in this way, you can be consistent and convince other people to create your brand. So for me, RollFem is this. We work mainly women to create our brand, and our second step is to create also products.
And Billy, obviously, Mesmer come into the industry, had an unbelievable impact from the start. Mesmer Rising, I'm sure everyone in this room has seen that video. The branding on it, like the imagery in it is so strong. You get such a clear message of like the kind of like the angle that you want to go for. Obviously, a lot of that was between you and Mark Moreno. Mark's like the kind of driving force behind all the branding and imagery. When you sat down with Mark and you guys were like, "We're gonna do this. We're gonna make some." What did he want and what did you want? Because obviously, as you two guys working together, and I know that you gave him like a lot of free reign to be as creative as he wanted. So, like, what did he say to you? What did you say to him? And was there any like, oh no, don't go with that. Like that's no, we don't. Like, were there any like conflicts, or were you both just like agreed on everything?
Well, I think when it comes to creating a brand, building a brand, it's your goal is to try to kind of find people who you align with, who are talented in ways or have visions in ways where you don't see things. Because you can have your own vision, but you're not going to be able to do everything. So you find the people who you like their work, you like what they do, and then you kind of just let them be as much of that as they are. And so Mark's kind of that. Mark's just, with him and with John Bellino and some of the team, we encourage the team guys to send their ideas and thoughts because, you know, I'm getting older and they're, some of them early 20s, young 20s, and I probably knew what was cool 20 years ago, but maybe less now. So I just always trying to get feedback from them and also like want them to have like a sense of ownership in the brand where they feel like their voice matters, their words matter, and so that kind of creates an environment that makes everyone have a sense of pride. It makes people feel like they're part of the creation process, and it really is like that. So for me, there's not much micromanaging from my part. I just really trust Mark and the guys when it comes to what they think is cool. There's been a couple of things that I'm just like, you know, maybe not that, like, but it's rare. I normally just like let them do their thing, and just like that makes it work for me because the things that I know the things that I want that I won't bend on, but that's not really in terms of the creative aspect of Mesmer. It's more just in what we want to do as a brand, and that's, so I'm kind of like on that end of it. So when it comes to all that creative stuff, it's kind of theirs, you know. So when anytime someone comes up and says, oh, you know, Mesmer, I really like the latest edit, and I really like the latest work, it's just it's a creation of everyone, you know. So and that also, I don't have to work as much, which is nice, you know. I appreciate that, you know.
Mark, make something beautiful. Right, I'll leave you to it. I'm curious to know what it is that they've that you've been sent that you're like, nah, I can't run with that. I'm not putting my name behind that. But
Well, I mean, we have like, I think when you're working with any group of artistically driven people, which we could find in skating, a lot of creative minds, some people, it's very unfiltered and it comes out sometimes where it doesn't, you know, like for example, John Bellino, like he's one of the most talented guys, but sometimes he's firing so much stuff out, it's like, well, maybe not that, you know what I mean? And maybe not that. We don't need to do what, I can't think of a specific product or anything, but definitely like just ideas with like tours or trips or things like that. And you know, I think, and when you have those brainstorming sessions, there's going to be ideas that come forward that you're just not going to accept. And you know, Dominic too. You know, Dominic's like as great as he is artistic, he's so like eccentric, I think, that he'll think of some far out things and it's just hard to accomplish. So it's not so much I would shoot it down because I don't like the taste. It's just like, well, that's just like hard to do, like, you know. But yeah, other than that, I think it's it creates an environment that I think for Mesmer was like an unintended consequence. It comes across on the screen that there's this connection between all of us because there kind of is, because we have that environment. I don't tell them what's happening, what's going to happen. Hey guys, this is our design, this is our thing. I ask them, you know, what do you think? Where should we go? What should we do a trip or should we do a video? You know, Brain God just came out and so did the tape video, which is amazing. And we're like, I don't know, should we do full length? Should we go longer? And I never tell them what we're doing. I always bring it to them, and that, you know, makes my life easier. It makes the whole project work better.
translation: the only person causing problems at the brand is John Bellino.
Translation: I don't want to work that much.
As everyone here is involved in brands and has been for years, what do you think are like some of the like common like pitfalls or mistakes that either you see other brands making or you've made yourself, or you would like to like warn people in the audience that are thinking about starting a brand against making? That goes out to anyone.
I have an easy one for you. Do you guys hear me? Yeah. I have an easy one for that because we were discussing that today. There's a difference between a good design, a good brand, and good marketing. And I think a lot of rollerbladers and people who aren't as involved in the creative field see a good design and they're just like, cool, that's everything. That's our branding, that's everything. You need a little bit more than that. And especially in skating, people want to feel connected to something. And it's hard to connect to a brand that's just a logo, that's just a design. There has to be a look and a feel and a reason behind it all and a story. And that is branding and marketing together. So I know that rollerblading doesn't have the biggest industry. There is not the biggest payback for having a brand. So it's hard to put the time and effort into, let's think about every single Instagram post. Let's think about every single little thing we do, every single thing. And I know that a lot of people in rollerblading are involved in creative fields, but the best example is up here with Mesmer. Every single Instagram post has a design and a reason and something that they're promoting. And every video has a style, even if it's different. Like you were saying, Dom's video is going to be completely different than, you know, Gabriel's video, but it all fits and works for the brand's story. So I think that's the North Star that a brand in skating needs to shoot for, is that you can't just come up with a good logo and slap it on everything. That's no reason for a consumer or a customer to want to support you. There's got to be a little bit more behind it. Anyone else?
No, I thought that was a great answer, and just like I like that you mentioned how there's a difference between a good brand, a good logo, and good marketing. It's important to make those distinctions, and yeah, I think that's having a cool logo is sick, but there's so much more. Like a brand needs a vision, and in that vision you can have all these different approaches within that, but it should all feel like the brand, and then that comes from more than just having like a logo out there. So I thought that was a really good answer. Cool, and thank you.
I would like to add something. At the beginning, for me, I thought that creating a brand, I should be like a superwoman, creating like the best brand and be successful. But this is not true. It's impossible to have a brand, a new brand, and be successful at the beginning. Building a brand is more like being Batman. So you have to build yourself, you have to create your tools, you have to create the Batimobile, and that is the way you get successful with the process. So it's something that you have to work on and experiment and see what works better. Thank you.
I love that analogy, by the way. It's not like Superwoman, it's like Batman.
Can I add something to this? Hello, hello. Okay, thank you. Adding up to what Javi just said, is that the main approach of your question first already sounds so negative about, yeah, what could you do wrong? And when we all come from a beyond creative background, that like it's the typical disease of inline skating, of rollerblading, that everyone kind of is creative and no one knows how to do taxes. So you, so lots of people have the power and the output to do something. So it's better to do all the mistakes we just mentioned, what you should not do, but still do them and grow by the process. And then, of course, like every input, what you said was brilliant. So it helps, but it's better to just like, if you start, usually it comes by time, and you, every mistake you learn something on. Pretty cheesy sentence, right?
No, you can make other mistakes.
Yeah, but just too often behind, too often again the same one. No, but yeah, just getting over the fear at first and start something and do something, and then of course there are guidelines, there are books how to create brands, and this combined with your knowledge of years and decades of blading, and how your market works, what your vision is, what you want, what you imagine your product needs to be, what you want to communicate, this usually sums up quite nice, hopefully.
Okay. I'm putting you on the spot because you're the one that works in bigger industries with bigger budgets on a more global scale. What have you learned from all the kind of brand work you've done with like Clark's and the word that you hate, collaborations with other brands, that you think rollerblading is not doing? Like what have you seen in other industries that you think we could be utilizing or could be doing that we're not doing yet and that we're missing out on as a result?
We only speak to rollerbladers. We only try and sell to rollerbladers. We don't, it's, to me, that's crazy. There's only 25 bladers in the whole world. Once you've sold to those guys, your brand's fucked. End of.
Amen.
So like, you need to start thinking about things outside of the 25 folk that rollerblade, because after that, yeah, literally you can't go anywhere. So whether that's building community, as you do, within picking a select, no, you don't want to select a group, but you pick something, you build community based on it, you have a tone of voice, which Brandon's talking about. Yeah, it's, I forgot what the question, it went off on that.
What do you think rollerblading brands?
Oh yeah, don't do. Yeah, that's it. We only speak to rollerbladers. We don't ever think about how we can connect with rollerbladers. And the other thing is, it's always, for some reason, product related. Like a brand doesn't have to have a product. Yeah, it's cool to have like one or two things that's going to sell. But you can still go and activate in certain markets and talk to new consumers without releasing a product. You know, without having something physical or tangible to sell to them. Yeah, the tangible thing's going to create you revenue, but you still need to connect to people before you're going to get them to buy your product anyway. So I think a great thing that we should do, I don't, you know, it's up to whoever owns a brand, but maybe start thinking about outside of just these rollerbladers and how we can connect to people and bring people into our field and what we do and raise awareness for what we do. You know, there's a reason why skateboarding now is socially acceptable when it wasn't 15 years ago. You know, and it's because they've thought about outside of their circle. You know, when the people that have also expanded into industries outside of their circle, they've taken skateboarding with them. 9 out of 10 times, and this is a cutting off people, but 9 out of 10 times when someone makes it into an industry that's creative or field driven, that can build publicity on rollerblading, we never ever shine light on it or take rollerbladers in. I don't feel. I know a lot of successful people in a lot of other successful creative fields that have a good opportunity at times. You know, I know it's not the easiest thing to do to get big bosses to sign stuff off. I'm quite fortunate with the project I did, but yeah, it would be nice if other rollerbladers help support and shine light on things in that way.
I do know what you mean, because there's a lot of people that have come out of rollerblading and made huge successes of themselves in other industries, whether it's music or film or just like we've got people that come from a rollerblading background that have been nominated for Grammys. We've got people that have like made music for some of the biggest shows on television, but it feels like once people leave blading, they're like, oh right, we're done with that. We're not like, and even if they continue skating, it doesn't feel that they try and they've like breached this new market, but they've not tried to take
but
it
that's
with them.
also for sure, and that's not telling anyone just because you go and do it. You have to make a brand and build rollerblading into it. It's just that led me off to like how brands should be thinking about connecting with outside worlds. You know, we could be doing more of it essentially. I don't think it's up to one person in one field to try and do it, but if everyone did a little bit, might get a couple more people out there watching what we do and not thinking what we did is like lame and shit, because it's not.
It definitely is not. Right, another one for the group, and then you guys can ask any questions you want. I'll come down with the microphone and be Jeremy Kyle or someone that wasn't cancelled. Nope, can't think of one. What advice, so as people that have started, what advice would you give to someone like starting a new brand? Like if someone came up to you and they were like, I'm gonna do this, like this is my idea, and the idea is great, what would you say to them? What is like your like one or two like piece of like sage advice or stuff that you wish someone had told you when you started a brand?
I think you made the best point of you just need to start. And I know it's hard with any type of creative aspect, but until you start doing it, you're not going to realize what it is. To kind of put that on me and my personal experience, the amount of random little brands that I created when I was 12 and 13, because I was excited and stoked about that, that's how I learned how to do design. And working for other brands and making mistakes is how I got to the point where when we wanted to start something that was going to be big and important, that I had the confidence to know what needed to be done creatively. So you don't have to start a standard or a Mesmer or something huge at the beginning. You can start a little clothing brand. And it's okay if it fails and you don't do anything with it, because then the next project that you do, you've already had that experience and starting that creative outlet, and you're only just going to continue to get better from there. You can't start at the top with that, you know, crazy North Star amazing brand. You got to start at the bottom and kind of learn the pitfalls of it before you can do that.
I just want to back you up because I love that you said, and I agree with you as well, that you just got to start it, just jump in head first, because you could have the greatest vision and idea for a brand, but there's so many things that you're going to learn that you're not going to know what to do until you just start it. So yeah, I didn't really have much more to go on about than that, but I just have to back that statement up. Just jump in there head first, just start it, figure it out. As you go, you're going to learn so much, you're going to open your eyes. People are going to be willing to help you. Once you start doing something and you spearhead something, people get excited. People around you get excited that, oh, what's happening, something new, and they start giving you ideas. And you know, like I said before, you got to shoot down some, you can accept others, but it's I think that's like a driving force in and of itself. Once you get the thing going, then it's an exciting time, because it's just it's so much potential, and you're having fun with talking about what it could be. And so yeah, I would say just do that. I think that's great.
I think to piggyback on what you were saying too, now is the best time to do it if we're going to get it out to more rollerbladers. I think the post-pandemic view of rollerblading in the general public is the best it's been. When we are seeing rollerblading in public now, we don't get the "what are you doing?" like why are you rollerblading? We get the "what are you doing? What is that?" So it's an interest now, where it used to be a negative, like, ooh, rollerblading, gross. Yeah, now it's like a, what is that? I've never seen that before. So now is a good time to start and promote outside of rollerblading if you want to do something.
Agreed. Yeah, agreed. There's just a massive trend within 90s, noughties culture. You know, in blading, 96 to 99, 98, kind of owned it. It was pretty cool to be a blader. You know, so it's great. It kind of sets in jet set radio. There's a whole trend of Tate smashing it off the back of that trend. He's going to continue. Like his tone of voice is amazing, and yeah, I think it's a great time. And it echoes. I don't know. I've never had enough courage to start my own brand, so I don't want to tell anyone else what they need to do to start their own brand. But I think just building something is like an amazing way to start. And learn from your mistakes. That would be my thing to do. Build and learn.
I can add something there. With the starting, I think what would have helped me a lot in the beginning is like the giving away of power. What Billy said with giving the complete trust to what Mark and what your team members do, because you can never do everything alone, and like it just multiplies if you involve lots of like the talents of other people.
Like from my side, from you, and this is with all respect to you, it's your brand, it's your product that you designed, you're the head of it. But you said it yourself, you're creatively driven. Do you know what I mean? You designed the product, you designed an amazing product, but how you actually build that brand and that business, you need support of the best people you have around you. And like, as Billy does, like, he's built Mesmer to where it was, but again, tone of voice, branding, things like that might not be his greatest thing. However, Mark, the homie, like, specialises in it. And they've had a relationship long enough where he can actually go, you know what, I don't need to have, what I say probably isn't going to be right. You just take full control of it. And it goes back to my bosses when they said to me, you know, we get pushback from everything. But at some point you have to start handing over expertise. You can't be an expert in everything, and allow the people around you and build the people around you to help take you where you need to be.
Perfect, yeah. And it... Oh.
Just real quick, I think part of that is also going to like knowing your strengths, you know? And so like knowing what you do well and knowing what others do well is part of that process. I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, and especially what also helps when you realize that you aren't surrounded by super talented people, that it's important to decide what not to do, to not slice up yourself into a salami tactic too thin. And just, you can, if you're just starting and you are not big and the financial resources are limited, you don't have to play with every party. Like, you can concentrate on your strengths, and use the people who can help around you and who are the same and like motivated as you are to create something new. But you don't have to do everything like the big brands if you're just a small one. This is like a really...
Big brands have way more money to do anything that we have to do. You know, like, so like, that, unfortunately that's what it comes to, like, yeah, but you're totally right. To just focus on those bits that you can do and then get the other people to help the others.
Because otherwise you always just have an complain about, yeah, I just couldn't do it because I would need huge billboards in the cinema or something. And you would always find excuses. So it just,
If I can add a practical advice, you can also write your ideas in a presentation, like in Canva, a free website, and then you start sharing this idea with your friends and start asking, hey, what do you think about this? What can I improve? And that's the way to start creating something. If you even don't know your strengths.
Were you going to say something, you handsome devil? You weren't. Good.
I got nothing.
Shit. I've asked enough stupid questions. It's time for people to ask informed questions, not Fred. Does anyone have any... Oh, here we go.
Hey, it's a question for Billy, but also anyone else that wants to answer it. So, like, Mesmer has some kind of younger people on the team. So Sebastian's pretty young, I don't know how old he is. Also Julia's like 17. So you've got quite a few young people that you've like spotted and been like, yeah, they like represent our brand really well, and we want them to like skate for us. Like, what's the process in identifying those people, and like, yeah, like how did some of those like people come about, I guess?
That's a good question. Thank you. I think so. Earlier, I was talking about some things I was not willing to compromise on in terms of a brand, and other things I'm willing to like delegate to the team for what their strengths are. For me, one of the most important things was, or things that I hate to go off something that I didn't like, because there's certain motivations of things that you do like, and there's certain motivations for things that you don't like. This was a motivation of something that I didn't like. When I saw like a lot of kind of bladers that were my age, like who had like had their time, like kind of like still making the brands with them instead of like reseeding the ground. So like for me, the ultimate goal is to have blading be healthy, live on, be strong. I want to be 80, 90 years old in a chair watching new blading and just knowing that we were a part of it and just to enjoy it. But ultimately, that was a big part of the vision, to just really like show that kids who were trying to push for their humble dreams to maybe be pro or to travel or experience the things that they saw in videos. But I think because a lot of companies were using the same people around a lot, that people lost hope, and I just wanted to bring hope into like the younger kids and say, hey, if you skate hard, you can do these things, we can do it. So that was the idea behind it. And just finding Julia and Sebastian, specifically Sebastian's 15, we saw him at the Blading Cup, and Levi actually saw him, and he just like had big old pants and like 2-3 chain wallets, and we're like, who is this kid? He's such a cool looking kid. And then we ended up just giving him a free pair of skates and staying in touch. And with Julia, we were, I've known Mirek from Heat and Skate for a long time, and I've always like saw a lot of support coming from the Polish scene in general. And so we were just like saw Julia skating on the skates, and it was a no-brainer. We wanted to, from the beginning of Mesmer, we wanted to, not only have young people involved, but we wanted to have as much representation as we could without like feeling like we had to force it. So we always wanted to have more girls involved. We started with Amber, and then Julia was just a no-brainer because she was just young, talented, skating Mesmer's ripping and on like an awesome trajectory. So, and we're taking her on a trip with us to Portugal after this. So it's like her first big trip. She was like, what do I pack? Everyone's like, socks. You're gonna need socks. And so yeah, it's gonna, that was kind of the idea behind that. But if anyone wants to go on.
Who else got a question? Whoa, Yandriel.
Since we're picking on Billy, my question is going to be towards the Mesmer brand. So I'll give a little bit background of my where my question is referenced from. So I was sleeping in the car, driving to Atlanta, and I just hear John talking really loud because he was on a call with the Mesmer team. How often do you communicate with your team about branding questions or about things like adding a new rider onto the team?
Okay, so we have a goal of what we want to do, and then what happens. So we started an idea of trying to do the last Sunday of the month. Just like everyone just do a group time face call on the Instagram, and some people are available, some people aren't, but we just try to do it then. I think we kind of dropped the ball in January, but we try to do that. At least I'd say realistically, on a FaceTime call with all of us, like maybe once every 2 months. But then on an individual level, it depends on the person, but as frequent as they would like. I'll talk to maybe Dominic more frequently than Levi, just because Levi I don't know, he's not really much of a talker in that way, so I just don't talk to him as much. But I'll talk to Mark super frequently, John all the time. It depends on the person, because everyone's their own unique snowflake, individual. You know what I mean. But it's that everyone has a different level of what they need from everything. So, but we try to do like once. The ultimate goal is once every month, at the end of the month, the last Sunday of the month, do a FaceTime call. Hey, what's up? How's everyone doing? Then sometimes we drop the ball on that, but that's the goal.
Yandy, there's only 3 of us. We don't need to do that yet.
Also, can't believe Billy just called the entire Mesmer team a bunch of snowflakes. But moving on.
Well, I was trying to say unique. Most snowflakes are individual. You know what I mean?
How dare you?
It was an analogy, but it didn't work. I'm sorry.
Dominic, Bruce, you're up.
Firstly, I just want to say, Billy, I don't think my ideas are too far out.
There he is.
I think you aired out the wrong laundry there. That was, yeah.
I'm sorry.
I'm joking. Some of them are definitely unachievable. Not right now, anyway. But Okay, so my question is, I guess, directed at Billy and maybe Stefan as well. It's a little bit about, like, even though I skate for a skate brand myself, I sometimes question why brands are structured the way they are, and why do we have a group of people who are on our team? What do they represent? What does that actually, what do you see, like, as a brand, what do you see the function of those people? And how do you integrate that into your thought about your brand? And because you know, there's other representations, like I guess in maybe something like Matthew's industry, you more utilize people for the function of a campaign or for the function of a release, and you could maybe more see them as like people who are models or, you know, marketing tools for that process. But in rollerblading, there's this kind of thing of loyalty tied to brands sometimes that I think is an interesting concept to challenge, because I think that it stops rollerblading from being as freelance, and that we have this more rooted representations. And I just want to hear your thoughts.
I can say I think that definitely does need to be challenged, just because you know, these brands are all trying to get customers and be competitive. It's still a small industry, and I think when you're so focused on one brand and not supporting everybody and everything that's going on, I think that is very hurtful to us. That is something that I see skateboarding doing. They will take, when they're going on a tour, they will take people from other brands that ride for other competitors on their trips because all those guys are friends. So I see that as something great because everybody's getting promoted, everybody's up there. And I think that's something that in rollerblading recently kind of needs to stop. I feel like everybody should be supporting everybody. But I can only speak for us in our situation. When we started Chroma, we had a very specific group of people that we wanted to have involved, and that's different from 50-50. And then when we started Standard, we wanted to try to at least have a differentiator between all three of the brands. But you know, when Yandrio and I kind of got pulled into Standard, it was, you know, how many people do we want to have on this? What do we want to do with this? What's the end goal? And to start, I think it was kind of having somebody that was very like-minded to us, even if their skating style wasn't the same. And I think me, Brian, and Yandrio have a very similar personality, and we tour very well together, we hang out very well together. And I think as we bring more people on the team, we want them to kind of have that same mentality. And I think like what you said too, Billy, with like bringing in new people, we have a dream list of skaters that either aren't sponsored or are young or are female that we would love to get on the team in the future, but our skate isn't even out in some countries yet. So that's definitely a down the road type deal. But yeah, that's kind of the goal, is kind of, you know, almost do what you guys are doing too, with like supporting young skaters, and we can't keep supporting, you know, kind of the same, I'm gonna say the older crew, but we're not gonna grow if we don't give young skaters a chance to do something. I feel like that's something that's been missing in rollerblading for a very long time, is young kids don't have a reason to continue almost. I feel like when they hit a progression point, it's like, well, I've done everything, what's next? And that's not saying you need to be sponsored, that's not saying you need to compete, but it might give that kid that is really sick a chance, and it'll get them more hyped to continue and to progress further, as opposed to them just being in their town, skating with their friends, and maybe quitting in the future.
Definitely. I'm sorry, Dom. I just so I know your question. It's how do you foster an environment where individuals feel like they can be themselves under the idea of a brand with an image, but not be beholden to the brand, and kind of be able to be themselves? Is that the idea?
In some way, yeah, but I think I was thinking of it more from the brand's perspective.
Okay.
Like, how do you see that person function?
Okay, so I think ultimately it comes down to the vision of the brand, and it depends. Like, you know, if you look at like SSM back in the day, it's obviously like very strong like rocker image, and so it would make sense to have people that look and skate the part, you know, and so that would align with the vision of the brand. But if your brand has a vision that's kind of not so beholden to at least a dress or a look, you don't put yourself so much in a box, and it gives it gives, I think, the individuals on the team, and it, like I mentioned earlier, just like allowing the individuals to help kind of define what it is that we are, making it harder to necessarily put your finger on what exactly it is. Like, I don't know what exactly that is, but there's something that ties it together. So I think it's always tricky as a brand because you want to define yourself, but you don't want to put yourself in a box because things get stale, things get old. So I think that would be the, like I said, it always depends because you could have a very straightforward vision on what you want to do with a brand. Like, we're doing a rocker brand. That's it. Metal, shit, leather, jackets, long hair, and, you know, whatever. But then you could have something that doesn't, like, when you allow different individuals to kind of define it on their own, then it just feels like it naturally happens that way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, can I tie a question into this that's just like, I feel it's still in the same thread. But it's like, do you think the brand's storytelling influences the way, like the culture storytelling in that time, or do you think it's the culture that makes the brand change? Like, do you think the brand is the one that creates the image that then kind of becomes a trend? Or do you think it's the skaters who create that for the brand?
I mean, that's an interesting question. I wonder everyone else's take on it.
I was going to say, this is something that I kind of bitch about a little bit, that I love about skateboarding, that I wish that rollerblading did more. We need the SSMs, Rossi's Face the Music vibe, brands, and the Gods, but then we also need the USDs and the Razors, where it's not such a streamlined, specific vision of what the skater is. We need all of that. And I think whatever the brand is, I think they need to choose what is authentic to them, because I think you can choose one of those visions and have it not be authentic to who's designing for you and what their design style is, who your riders are, and how they skate, what they're into. Not to go back to us again, but the three of us do not skate similar at all, and we've learned that filming. It's been real fun trying to get the three of our skatings to match, but I feel like if we use a specific type of song, you can see that matching with all three of us. And that's not saying that we're going straight Sex Pistols, Face the Music, Ollie Short, Charles Dunkel vibe, but it's also not a generic, and I don't want to use that in a rude way, generic Razors vibe, where it's like, you can have somebody like Sneaky and you can have somebody like Derek Henderson skating for the same brand and it works. So I think it's got to depend on the brand and what your vision is and who your riders are, all together as one.
Definitely. And to answer Dominic's question about does the riders influence the brand or the brand influence the riders, I think it's just reciprocal in a way. You know, you kind of, if you're doing your job good, you have a sense of the feeling of what other people are wanting or moving toward, and then they give an input, and then the brand then creates that feeling, and then because of that, it's now influencing the skaters. So it's not something that's kind of spawning off of out of the middle of your head. You're seeing what's happening, you're making it, and then it all kind of influences itself.
I feel like it's a case-by-case basis. Like, I feel like the them team can do something completely new, and then that's the new thing, because that's who that team and that squad are. But then another team, like, I keep going back to this, like, you have that, like, Charles Dunkel Face the Music. If you see Charles Dunkel starting to wear baggy cargos, it's going to feel odd and inauthentic.
Right.
So I feel like it's kind of case-by-case basis.
That's a good point. Like, the authenticity is true. Like, and it's if something's forced, then, you know, people sniff that out quick. People are good at sniffing out bullshit. So if it's something that's like disingenuous, inauthentic, then people are going to get a sense of that. Do you guys have any thoughts on this?
Yeah. Also, I think that people in social media right now, we see the emotion. We connect with the emotion of the riders. So we don't buy a skate only because it's the brand. I mean, we can see a direction of the brand, but we connect with the skater. And for girls, it's like this, I think. We really see, for example, Mary, that she's really pushing, and we like their skates, and we support her. All her skates are sold because we can see that she really pushed herself. So I really think that it's more the connection with the skater.
I could only add that it might depend. Back to Dom's first question was, but additional to it, everything influencing each other. It depends on the gravity or the power of the person For example, if you take a tiny brand and put Heavy or Feinberg on it, the brand will not have that gravity as the superstar, and vice versa. If you put small unknown new faces to a well-established huge brand, it influences each other differently. So it's yeah. So I'll stop that.
Next question.
That's a great
from
point.
Jason Reyna.
Kind of to expand on what you guys are talking about, but I want to hear from Matt. So in your branding, Wallabies, like Clarks, they go from English schoolboy to Wu-Tang Clan. How do you control an image? I mean, we're all talking small potatoes and we're talking about 3 guys on a team, 5 guys on a team. For a brand that's that large, how do you guys keep your image, being as diverse as it is, in check? Like what they said, but on this massive global market that's very international, you know, like, let's say we do get that big and we do get those other circles. When you get to that point, what's it like?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, you, as everyone said, like, input is key, absolutely. In the brand, it morphs in various different ways. You know, we have a huge business with the school kids, we have consumers in almost every type of category of consumer there is, to be honest with you. But one thing that's really true that we have that parallels throughout the brand is, and you mentioned before, is like tone of voice and DNA. Like we reference back, and this is when you get to a global scale, like most brands will have this, it's a little Bible, essentially, that references back to it. You allow manipulation to it to a degree, but some brands don't. Some brands are like, nah, this is our ethos, this is what we stand for, this doesn't align. And other brands are a bit bigger, but it's difficult. You know, it's absolutely difficult, and at some points it doesn't work. Like, there's no doubt. What I do in my team doesn't connect sometimes with what another person does in the other team. And yeah, you got to work through that. You know, that's not everything always works, and it's about learning. Like, that's the key thing. Some brands do it really, really well, and they pay lots of money for people that are really, really clever at it. And then they allow direction as well. Like, one thing I think that is super important is having, like, if it's a CBM or like a CFM, like a head of brand, head of marketing that can lead things and actually have the top sign off over everything is super important for a brand. As much as it is to have everyone's unique input, you do need someone to say, no, I'm not doing that. It's my money, it's my brand, I don't agree on that. As much as it's great, Dominic, referencing back to your point with Billy, like, it's Billy's brand, with all respect, like, I've got to pay the fucking bills. Do you know what I mean? And like, my brands understand, I come with projects all the time where my boss is like, yeah, that's great, but it's not going to do anything for us, and yeah. So it's, I think I maybe lost track, Jason, sorry, man. But yeah, it's difficult, it's really hard. I'm here representing brands, not Clarks, just to make that clear. And all brands make mistakes, is all I'm going to say. In that sense. But we're lucky, we do have a great team, and we've been very, very good over, like, we're 200 years old. Clarks is 200-year-old brand, which is really old. You know, if you think we've got a pretty strong DNA of tone of voice that we follow, although we can manipulate it into certain cultures, it's pretty strict. Do you know what I mean? There's John knows, if you ask some of the stuff that John may have said that he wants to do or doesn't want to do, like, yeah, there's like certain things that are just a no-go. We can't do it as much as we want to. Just wouldn't be allowed to.
Next question. Gonna make me run.
Hi. My question is related to the fact that in our community, we see a lot of people starting a brand, but many of those brands start and don't actually establish themselves. And picking a little bit of what you said about it, you don't necessarily have to have a product for that brand to expand or to be established. What is a discipline or maybe a set of disciplines that have helped you go from starting to actually establishing a brand?
I can say one thing that I've seen in rollerblading too is, as we've said, it's not the biggest industry. there's not a lot of money to be made. So I feel like when people start a brand and it doesn't pop off immediately and they're not making money off of it, it's hard to keep going. But the brands that are doing well are brands that have been here and have stayed. And I think if you're going to start something, I think you need to try to stick with it and to have it be established. Like we said before, it's always good to just start too, to get somewhere. But I think longevity and staying around is something that is important, especially in rollerblading, because people are going to be more willing to support because they know that you're here and you've been here. So I think that's the main thing that I've seen.
I think it depends. In blading, it's easy. It depends what you want to do. Like, for example, if like Jinko jeans, like huge jeans, came like back in style right now, and then some business kind of hustler was like, shit, I'm gonna make jeans now because jeans are hot. And that's something that's not gonna last because there's, I mean, you could make money, there could be a quick thing, but there's not like, the inherited interest behind it is to make money. It's not that you have a passion for pants. So I think everyone in this room has a passion and a vision for rollerblading at least, and I'm sure many other things because rollerblading tends to be filled with creatives. So with blading, it's just, for me, it's like a no-brainer. You know, there are things I could, you know, I'm into rollerblading, drumming, riding my bike, but probably no rollerblading more than anything. So